Hi, I'm Rachel Whitefield, certified life coach, and with me is our resident birthday bestie, Jackie Black. Thank you for joining us on another fabulous episode of Whiskey Bent
Spellbound with Black.
and Whitefield.
All right, Rachel.
Before we get into it, birthday bestie, your birthday's
Oh yeah.
you are gonna be in mere hours. You'll be
hmm
40 wonderful.
I know that's right.
40 wonderful. I know you're January baby. Congrats.
Yep.
Happy
New Year's.
birthday.
New
Yeah.
Year's. I think that means my parents got down in July for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think
Is that
everyone's
right?
done the timeline. I think I was some birthday sex. Hmm.
I don't know. I know one thing. I was made in Las Vegas. My parents love to tell that story, much to my chagrin.
Oh, Lord. If we're gonna get into a conversation today,
We are.
let's get,
It's really ironic the conversation we're going to have, considering what
yeah,
are we drinking today,
we're gonna be
Rachel?
drinking during this conversation, which is very counterintuitive. But yeah. Um, we are maximalists here on the Whiskey Bent Spellbound podcast. And today we're maximizing our whiskey budget as the smart women we are. We are once again, as per last show, drinking the Bullet Bourbon Frontier Whiskey, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey from Bullet. Mine is again once out of the freezer, so it is nice and
Mm.
frosty. Ooh, it looks so good.
Mm.
Yeah, and doing research on the company today, I found out that their distillery was constructed with a focus on sustainable practices, and that
Love it.
includes water conservation and local ingredient sourcing. So, who doesn't love a bit of a conscientious whiskey company?
While we pour, I have a fun fact
Ooh.
about this
Yes, but let
this
me go over
whiskey
my ice
company.
molds first.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Ooh.
show me those ice molds. Did they work out?
Yes, they did. And so, what I love about these ice molds, they're like melting my hands. However, they look like whiskey glass, like a fancy whiskey glass. That's what I love
Oh,
about
they
them.
do.
They've got these little like Art Deco angles on them. And from anyone who listened to our last episode, you know that oh my, Jack, I can't wait to get into your ice molds. I got a little sidetracked with a happy, pleasant surprise of the Fancy Sprinkles luster powder, the shimmer powder. And then
Yeah.
I also added that same shimmer powder and their rose gold glitter. So we'll just see how it works today.
I can't wait.
I doubled down. Big
You
money,
did.
no wins. I doubled down on this
It's
ice. So
very sparkly in your glass.
very excited. I'm
I
gonna
have
pour.
diamonds.
It is eye-catching.
But
Your
I couldn't,
diamond.
I don't know why, but the top half of my diamond just decided not to mold. So it is what it is. I got half diamonds.
But they are a stunning shade of bright green.
I know it's that peridot. I love this
Oh,
peridot.
so good.
Yes.
Oh,
Let's get this. I
yes.
love that the
Sure.
sound
Mm-hmm.
of the
I hope
cork
the
coming out.
ASMR like goes through. I'm getting as close as the mic as I can. Ooh, yes. I'm gonna swirl a bit.
Swirl.
Oh,
Swirl snoot.
that dusting of shimmer is really looking good.
Let
Ooh.
me see.
Oh yeah, let me see. Up to the camera. Can you see?
Yes. Oh, that's
Mm.
really pretty with the glitter in it too. I
Yeah.
love it. So
Okay.
Bullet was founded by Augustus Bullet, I'm
Mm.
finding out,
Yeah.
back in like the early 1800s or something like that. And
Okay.
he was like a barkeep, right? So he wanted to make like the best bourbon.
Hmm.
But one day, I can't remember why, but one day he loaded up, he's like a urban legend, okay? He's like an urban legend, like what happened to Jesse James after he passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know how there's like stories about Jesse James being seen after he passed away? So, Augustus Bullet, right before the Civil War in 1860, loaded up all of his barrels and bounced. And he was on his way oh, I got thumbs up. He bounced out of town and he was on his way through Louisiana when he disappeared without a trace. They never found the barrels. They never found his wagon. They never found him. And there was like a huge search going on. And then, the Civil War kicked off. So nobody actually knows what happened to this man.
Whatever came of Augustus Bullet.
Whatever could have came of Augustus Bullet. But now we're drinking his delicious whiskey.
Yes, we are.
Sorry, his bourbon.
His bourbon, Kentucky Straight bourbon whiskey. And confirmation from a bartender
that it is Bullet.
Bullet. Okay.
Well, he straight up said Bullet.
I thought it was Bullet until I read a little closer to the label, a little fine print. So jury's still out. It's Bullet. Bullet.
It is.
I'm not quite sure.
Bullet.
I don't know anymore.
Well, at this point, here's what I do know. It's delicious.
It is delicious. So look,
Clinkies
to another great show.
Mm-hmm.
I always say we're going to go places on this episode, but you were a little nervous on your episode, your life coaching episode last week.
I was.
I'm a little nervous for this one because again, we are nothing if not honest on this podcast. And we're talking about, the whole scope of being a human and the messiness that entails. And, as we always strive to be the best version of ourselves.
Yep.
And, I took a moment of reflection from your last episode and your goals as we spoke about them. And I kind of reflected on that. And, you had a goal of drinking less, which even though like we do have a little taster of whiskey on the show, yes, Whiskey Bent portion of the show. But it was just got to me that I was like, hey, there was a moment in my life as well where I was like, I need to drink less as well. And so that theme of this show, I mean, we're January, beginning of January. A lot of people do dry January. Wow. We're not doing that. So the episode title is called Adjacent January, where we kind of just talk about some our experiences of just in our life and kind of where we have been in the past in a less fabulous version of ourselves. And as we want to move forward into the best version of ourselves and kind of being very honest about that process.
Yeah. So, we're making very clear though, we are not going totally dry for January.
No.
We're going to be drinking for work purposes and significantly cutting down, quite frankly, the wine intake.
Yeah, it's the wine outside of work.
Because it is a bottle. I mean, I'll drink a bottle. I don't care.
Yeah, I got to the joke the time where I'm like, a bottle is a serving size.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what kind of glass you have, really, because if you got the big glass, the bottle is the serving.
Yeah, exactly. So I know. And I'm like, oh, the happiest place on earth outside of Disneyland is like 3 glasses of wine in. Yeah. That's a good buzz.
It is a really nice, comfy buzz. But then as soon as you hit that foot, like you think you're fine.
But you're good. It's like the precarious part. You think you're good. 3, and then you're like, yeah, one. And then it's just like, oh no.
Then you have the 4th one.
Yeah.
You're texting your ex.
I'm past that point in my life, but Lord, it did get me into a little bit of trouble for a while post-divorce. So I will share a story or an experience in my life, not necessarily a story, but just an experience that I had in my life, right, kind of post-divorce, but we'll just get into it. So we call it an adjacent January. However, this was, I'm going to talk about experience of my life where and I don't want to call it sober. I don't like the use of that word, but I went dry for 90 days. So I decided to not drink for 90 days. And this was, I started the day after my birthday, 2019.
Okay.
No, I started on my birthday because I started coding school the same day as I was like day 1. So it was my birthday. I stopped drinking for 90 days and I started coding school all in one day. However, I knew I was going to stop drinking for 90 days. So and it was my birthday eve, as it is for you today. Ring a ding ding. And so I just maybe little heavy-handed the day before because I knew I was going to stop, which is also not the best, perhaps
But
behavioral pattern, but you knew, I knew
very common.
very common. It was my birthday, I was going to be like, what, 36 at that point. So, yeah. So anyways, so let me set the scene of my life is just very much like I had recently moved to Colorado and I didn't know anybody outside of my family. And I felt really lost in my life. Like I was dealing with this like huge rejection, coming off this divorce. And it was like, what am I supposed to be doing? I hadn't started coding school yet. I just felt really lost in a lot of different aspects of my life.
Mhm.
And, professionally, I felt really lost. Personally, like emotionally, just everything was just bad. So I was in this new place where I didn't know anybody. And, I was so broke that I was like, I couldn't go out and like do stuff and meet people, or I felt kind of, so I was more homebound. Um, and my mom had just come off this like brain surgery. So I was back at home watching, like taking care of her for like 6 weeks. And so again, it was like this kind of upheaval over upheaval. And I was just I felt really stuck in my life. And so I ended up like drinking a lot and wine mainly, but it was more of like, when I look back on it and my reasons why or whatnot, it was more of like, I feel like I was bored drinking. Like I
Like
didn't
filling the time with
fill the
alcohol.
time. Yeah, it wasn't like I
Yeah.
had these cravings or anything, but it was more of like I didn't know what to do. So I was kind of like, okay, at night I'll have, a couple glasses of wine and then it turns into a bottle, and then it turns into something more after that. So, and then it turned into like every day. It's like, well, I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
So I would like end up like kind of drinking at night, And so I just got to the point where we were talking about in the last episode of, um, you have this vision of your 2024, December 2024, Jackie,
Right.
how is she different than January 2024, Jackie? So it's not, it's maybe the symbolism of like who you think that person is. Your best self will,
Mhm.
and when you do the work, this is who you will be.
Right.
And I knew I was not being honest to my best self. And it was like, I know it's not that I'm like, quote unquote, I'm better than this. That's not a fair assertion. But I was
Mhm.
like, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I want to do. And every day I keep doing this behavior pattern gets me a day farther
Further.
away from
Yeah.
who I have been in the past as a very successful business owner, and then who I want to be in the future. And it's just, she's getting farther away from me. And I'm not getting closer to her, of who I know I can be or what I'm capable of. But again, you just have to get to the point where you're just like, you have to get sick of your own bullshit sometimes to then make that choice. And again, no one can make it for you. Like I came to this choice on my own where I was like, you just kind of, I like, wasn't feeling well. And then I'd be hungover the next morning. And then I would be like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then I would go to the gym and kind of sweat it out or like anxiety clean to be like, oh, I'm going to get my life together now
At 3 a.m.
at 3 a.m. when you're like, you start to be hungover, and it's just like, oh God, it's like, I don't like feeling like this. But then it's like, I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
I can only, go to the gym for so many hours. Like, I don't really know anybody and I didn't want to be in the dating realm yet. I wasn't ready for that, but it was just more of like, I don't even feel like it was escapism. Like I didn't need to numb my emotions or anything. It was just like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know myself. I had lost myself. And so it was
Yeah.
more of like, I'm a
Well, you
ship
were
like,
caretaking
yeah,
too.
yeah. And it just got to the point where I was like, okay, like, so you wake up enough morning and you're just like, I don't like this anymore. Like, I don't want this anymore. I don't like feeling like this. I don't like sleeping in. And then I'm only trying to fucking maintain at the gym. I'm not making any progress. I'm literally just stagnant. And I do not thrive in stagnation. But again,
That's something that I know bothers the shit out of you.
yeah, like I like
Moving
my life.
forward.
Where's the Don Draper? My life goes in one direction, and that is forward. Like,
That's right.
and the fact that it's like you take a long, hard look in what I call your truth mirror of just
Mhm.
like, hey, this isn't right. This isn't what I want for my life. So what's keeping me from doing better? And I was like, you know what? I feel a lot better if I just stop drinking for a while. And I mean, if anyone who knows me, it's very much like, oh, champagne for everybody. Everything's a party. I still want
Yeah.
everything to be a party. I just want to be fun at the party. Like you want to drink to celebrate. You don't want to be like, oh, look at that poor girl at the bar. Like, you
In
gotta
a
check
corner.
yourself before you wreck yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
So I just needed to check myself. I needed to check myself, but I also needed to check in with myself and have a very honest conversation about who I do want to be. What does that person do or don't do? And how can I get my life back on track after I got stuck in this shitty place for a while? And I want to be very clear, it's okay to be stuck in a shitty place for a while. Just don't unpack and live there. And I was getting a little too comfortable in that space, or making a little too many excuses for myself, or
You were decorating that space. You
a
were getting
little
ready
too
to put
much.
up pics.
Yeah. Like I was like, oh, I had to unpack the entire suitcase, but it was like it was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I got sick of my own shit. And again, as I like to say, sometimes you just got to sit in the shit. Like if things are uncomfortable and if I'm dealing with really hard emotional things right now, the only way to the other side is through. You cannot
Mhm.
avoid it. And I just got to the point where I was like, okay, like I am ready to deal with it, to feel it, to start to get comfortable in my new place, in my new home in Colorado, to, like I'm going to start school. I went to a women's only coding program and I was like, yes, now I can make some friends. Now I can just really and I really knew it was going to be a very intensive program and I wanted a very clear mind about it.
That's really smart.
I wanted a very clear mind that nothing was going to, no brain fog, no
Right.
struggles. I was just going to say, hey, I'm not drinking. And I chose the 90 days because I was like, it is accomplishable, but does seem challenging, you know? So it was
Yeah.
more like, ooh, I can't tell you the last time I didn't have a drink at night. So go 90 days, go 3 months, totally dry. Okay, that is a challenge of significance for me at that time, you know?
That's huge though. That's a big deal. Like that seems butt puckering, as Rachel would say.
Hmm.
To me, it seems pretty challenging because I find myself in a lot of social situations where I'm like, I want to have a drink to just kind of relax because I get very self-conscious.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'd like to be more clear-headed because the next day after I, have had a drink or two, then
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my God, what did I say?
Yeah,
And
like
I get
I
the
don't want to
same
be that person
anxiety.
where I am like, oh my God, let me go through my text. Like, oh fuck me. Like, God, oh sorry. Like, what did I do? So, and again, this was just, April, May, June. So, uh, for 3 months,
Right,
starting
right
on
in
my
that
birthday.
spring celebration time frame still.
Yeah. And, and it was really because I was living with my sister for the first time since, I was 14 years old. And we would also like drink together. And it would be like, we're making up for lost time. It's like, well, now what I'm missing out on that experience too.
Yeah.
Of, not only she's my sister, she's turning into a bestie now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta check myself before I wreck myself. And I'm going into this new school thing and I really want to focus on that to be my best self because I'm paying for that education. I don't want to waste that time or money or experience. So, so when I did go dry for those 90 days, because again, it was my choice. So you have this like motivation behind you and you're like, yeah, like I'm not gonna drink. I'm gonna focus on other things, you know. And then about 2 weeks in, I was like, ooh, I miss it. Like I didn't miss it for the first 2 weeks. And this is like cold turkey, like nothing. But I also knew I had to go cold turkey because if I tell myself, oh, I can only drink when I'm out, or like these other like stipulations and stuff, it's like that's not the changes that I want to make. I make a big, significant change. And to prove to myself that I can do it, you know. So first 2 weeks were good because you're just like motivated and you're like, I feel so good. You know, I'm getting a full night's sleep. I started to lose weight just naturally because you're not taking in those extra whatever it is. You know, I was like, oh yeah. And then about 2 weeks happened and I was like, ooh, you have that voice in your mind and you're just like, it's been 14 days. Like I don't have to prove
You
anything to anyone.
deserve to celebrate.
Like, I feel great. I obviously don't have a problem. I can, you know, like, do I really need to prove anything to anyone? I was like, yes, future Rachel had my back. And she was like, yes, you made this promise. You made this promise out loud. And you need to stick to it because if you can't hold out for 90 days, who are you? If you can't keep a promise to yourself, who are you? You're not the woman that you say that you are, that you want to be, that you know that you can be or are. You're not her. Don't do it, you know? So that's when the motivation versus the discipline kicks in. You're just like, no, I made a promise to myself and I'm going to keep to it. And besides, it's like, okay, if I just do 2 weeks and then I drink and I say I'm going to do it again, another 90 days. I was like, you just wasted 14 days. And I was like, I'm not going to waste 14 days. That's 14 days in the fucking bank, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to waste 14 days.
And
Like,
then at that point, you had less days to go, so you might as well stick to it.
yeah. So it got to the point where I was like, I'm not gonna throw 14 days away. So, and then it got 15 days and 16 days, and every day gets a little bit closer, a little bit, oh, look at more, just another more. And then you kind of forget, you're like, I just don't do that. Like, it's okay. I just don't do that. And and I found different ways to kind of stand on ceremony because it's a habit, you know?
I
So
love this trick.
yes. And I do this still, even though, you know, I still have wine when I want it. You know, obviously we have whiskey on the podcast, but when I'm cooking at home, you know, I'm always like, oh, I like to have a glass of wine when I cook, or I just kind of have these like habits of, okay, you know, you have this, had a hard day. I want a glass of wine. But I was like, is it the wine I like or the ceremony I like about it? So to this day, still like 4 or 5 years later, I will drink water out of a wine glass. I will drink water out of a martini glass. I still like the feeling of having the glassware in my hand. And anyone who knows me in my apartment knows I am a sucker for glassware. Like
You love glassware.
fancy
You have
glassware.
every type of bar glass. The
Yes.
fact that you don't have a full wet bar, I think, is only because of the size of your apartment. But there will be one in the home that you buy.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm just like champagne for everybody. I got a champagne coupe. I've got the champagne. I've got the stemless. I've got everything. I'm running out of available cupboard space
You
because
really are.
I have glassware for every occasion and then
Yep.
some. Like
Mhm.
if anyone needs a spontaneous party, I'm good.
Call Rachel.
Call me. Like I'm great. Like I am ready for it.
You
So
really are.
it's just like I do love drinking water and it's like maybe it might be silly, but I was like, I can just like hold my little martini glass and just drink. It looks like a martini. I can put a twist on there if I want to, you know, it's just, and then it's like I still get to feel like the vibe of my party, or I could still get the vibe of like having my water in a wine glass. And then I just am drinking it like I normally would, but I'm not getting drunk. But I still have like the ceremony of like cooking with like that wine glass in my hand.
Yeah,
So like my behavior, so it wasn't such a big shock or change because I still got to have the ceremony that made me happy.
I love that trick. Actually, that's something I do whenever I go through these periods where I'm like, okay, no drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not going to drink during the week. We'll have one drink on the weekends. Like, I'll make up rules like that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to a bar or something like that during the week, I'll order like a ginger ale or a Sprite with lime, and I'll ask the bartender to put it in a like a rocks glass or like something that looks like an alcohol glass, a martini
Mm-hmm.
glass, whatever. You could name some more glasses than I can. I just
Yeah.
can't. Put
I
it in a
would,
cuvee, please. Like
yeah,
what the I don't know.
my favorite kind of go-to mocktail, and it is just cranberry juice and Sprite.
Yeah,
And
in a
then
champs.
but then I would ask the bartender to be like, "Can you put it in a martini glass, please?" And they're like, "I got you." Like they know, you know,
Yeah,
because it's like I still want to be included in the party and to also look like I'm at the party, but also because I also enjoy vodka, that I would just put water in and like pack it with ice in like a rocks glass. And so then people are like, that's what my would normally look like.
yep.
You know, that's what would normally be in my hand at this occasion. So it's just like no one knows that I'm just drinking water packed in a rocks
You're
glass.
just
A
staying
twist.
hydrated.
And again, I don't have to answer any questions to anybody of like, why aren't you drinking? It's like, so I'd be like covertly not drink in places because again, I don't want to answer these questions to everybody or what have you. It would just be like, I'm still included in the fun. And then
Yeah,
also
there's
because I
something
am
about
standing on
holding the
ceremony,
glass.
I'm still having fun. You know, it's just like I'm
Yeah,
not getting drunk when I do it.
yeah.
So I actually believe, and I was like, I think I did like 93 or 95 days total because my sister and we wanted to go out to dinner or have some like charcuterie snacks, you know. And so it wasn't until she could like go out on this night. And so I didn't just do 90 days. I would say I did like 93 days. And man, I felt so good.
I've heard you say that before.
I
You describe it feeling so good, like
so
the whole
good. And it took a couple days, but I was like, man, I feel good. And because again, yes, it's like alcohol is poison and pollutes your body. But I was like, again, everything in moderation. But because I hadn't gone without it for so long. So now when I have this hard reset for myself, it's like, man, I feel good. Like it was great. And so, I mean, I have been like, I haven't gone dry since then. It was just like a hard reset for me to one, check in with my relationship with myself.
Mhm.
And then two, check in with my relationship with alcohol. Does it serve me? Does it not serve me? At that point in my life, it wasn't serving me. Wasn't making me a better person. It wasn't doing anything. It wasn't doing anything for me. It was just keeping me from a better version of myself. The goals that I wanted to accomplish. I was like, okay, that thing right now, it's got to go. And
Yeah,
every once in a while, like I'll do 30 days here, I'll do, 2 weeks there. It just depends. But again, it was challenging, but I'm really glad I gave that gift to myself to like, here, we're going to check in with each other. We're going to be honest with ourselves, girl. No bullshit. And honestly, to just say, hey, we just need a hard reset. Let's just check on that relationship. Does it serve you? Does it not serve you? But again, I will take those lessons of like what serves me and what doesn't serve me. And what do I need to do with it? Whether maybe a friendship or a relationship doesn't serve me. Okay, that's got to go, you know?
yeah.
So it was really, really wonderful. And it was great. And I'm so glad that I gave that experience to myself to be like, all right, yeah, that does serve me. Yep, it doesn't serve me. And now as I transition into more mindful drinking, to be purposeful, because before I was bored drinking because I didn't know what
Right.
else to do. And now it's like, okay, we are actively choosing this or not choosing this, not as the default, but it's like, would I like to have a glass of wine? Yes, I would, or I have an early swim tomorrow, an early spin class. It's like, nope, I don't need that. So it just depends, for the show, it's like I am actively and not actively choosing and not passively accepting that it's like, okay, I'm gonna have a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey for the podcast. It's like, okay, we're good. We're gonna do that, So that's kind of my reflection of your past episode of you are standing in your power and making active choices of who you want to be in the future and saying, does this serve me? Does it not serve me? And so it's just like, I just had a moment of reflection to be like, I had an experience like this, where it's just like, hey, it serves me or it doesn't. And so I was like, this doesn't serve me. So yeah, that's kind of my takeaways about it, Jackie. Like, how do you feel about, it's been a week since a reflection of your last, your life coaching session.
Yeah.
How do you feel about those choices that you've made, or
Oh, they're scaring the shit out of me.
yeah.
Because they're hard and they're like, this is my personality, right? Like my personality is the planet's on fire, do it for the plot. Whatever, and then me and you got together and we started this business and like we're having a great time, and now we have a combined vision of where we want to be, and I know that I need to change real big habits in my life in order for us to get there as a team. And when you talked about doing the 90 days dry, I was like, that is something I don't know that I could do dry all the way. It's hard. Thing is with me is that alcoholism runs in my family. The the thing that really scares me is that that my I say it all the time. Dell drinks and Diane yells. That is a very nice way to say I have a little bit of trauma. A little bit. It's important, what happens with trauma, you get funnier. So I refer to my parents in the funniest way possible because they're still married and they're still in my life.
You earned your trauma. You earned your
Yeah, I
funniness.
earned it.
Yeah.
I earned this humor.
Yeah.
With 40 years of trauma with Dell and Diane.
So
love them. They're my favorite parents in the whole world. You know what I'm saying? But Dell is a functional alcoholic, and we're basically watching him slowly destroy his body with alcohol because he's a functional alcoholic. He it seems more normal when he's drinking. I never, ever, ever want to get there. I feel like I'm already winning because I'm not there. And he was 40 once and a functional alcoholic.
That's how it is. Like, I'm like, you got to check yourself.
Yeah.
Because
so
you
I
can
feel
see
like
what could happen to you. Yeah.
It's scary. And like my irrational fear is being homeless. Okay. I believe there's an irrational fear in me that if I become an alcoholic, that will turn into drug addiction. And then before I know it, I will be homeless. Like that's how my brain is working. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't know that.
I didn't know that was your irrational fear.
Yeah. My irrational fear. And like, here's the thing. I have family. I have a savings. At this point, there's not really a way for me to be homeless. It could happen if I really try. But that's not something that I want in my life. So I don't want to be a functional alcoholic. I don't want to even get close to that, which is why I was like, and I like the way you put it, I need to check my relationship with alcohol. I found myself yesterday having my very last glass of my December box of wine. I think you told me about this earlier, like you had your last or something like that, but I had my last glass last night. And I threw the box away and I was like, and it wasn't even a full, like it was less than 8. I think maybe it was 6 ounces, what was left. And then that was it. And I am definitely not going to order another box for this next payday, which was going to be in my, like grocery order.
Yeah.
Because like it scares me. Alcoholism scares me. You're just, you get it from being somebody's child. Like
Yeah.
it just runs
The way
in the family.
your brain works. Like
Yeah.
addiction runs in my family. Like so a lot of us, so it's more of like we see the patterns of our parents and we're like, I don't want that for myself.
Don't, yeah, we gotta break the patterns of our parents, to be honest with you. Like that is one of the things that we're here for,
And
is breaking those generational uh traumatic habits, events, trauma. That's what we're here for.
yeah, that's the underlying current of it all. Because I'm like, if someone enjoys drinking and has a problem, go ahead, go on. We're not. I'm not here to judge anyone. I was
No.
like for me, I had to check in for myself, and it was very much attached to where I was emotionally in that spot. And I was like, now again, I got sick of my own shit, and I was like, now I'm ready to move forward
Mhm.
and stop making excuses for myself
Mhm.
and say, hey, like, you don't like that person you see in the mirror right now, Rachel. What are you going to do
I
about
do
it?
I
And
do
some
dumb
days I
shit.
wasn't ready to do anything about it. But again, eventually when you just feel gross and you hate this pattern and you're like, let's break some patterns. Let's do it. Like for myself, I did it for myself. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to prove it to myself. I wanted to do it for myself, for my
Yeah.
betterment of myself. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. And when I drink like that bored drinking,
Mhm.
I do dumb shit. I do dumb shit.
Mhm.
I 100% text exes just to ruin their day. I'm not even joking. That's the mindset. I'm going to text you. I hope it ruins your day.
Awesome.
I get
I
into
wish I
fights.
had it.
I
What?
yell at people. I become aggressive, like in public. Like,
Mm.
this is bad behavior. This is bad behavior. When I drink too much, I have left that behind in 2023. We talked about it in the last show. 2024 Jackie is not 2023 Jackie. The minute the clock struck midnight, I became December 2024 Jackie. She's waiting for me. I became her. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to let her down. I'm not going to be texting exes. I'm not going to be getting into fights and being aggressive with people. I'm not. And like when I say I am aggressive, I don't mean like violently. I mean like I aggressively hit on men and make them extremely uncomfortable,
Oh, okay. I
like
appreciate
in
that
public
clarification.
places.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Like
Like you're
just,
Jacqueline is on the prowl.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
Maybe
aggressive about
I
it.
just, well, I would sit and puzzle a lot. See, I'm not. I'm just like, I'm just at
That's
home.
okay.
Like
You're just,
I would just sit and puzzle.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, last this couple days ago, I was diamond dotting and I drank a little too much wine because I was just sitting doing my diamond dots.
Well, it's easy to do with diamond dots.
It
I
does. You just
freaking
sit
love a
there and
good
it's
diamond
down.
dot.
My friend got me one of those for Christmas, and and she said she would frame it for me when I was finished, and it's all done. All 10 of them are done. The little
Hand it
squares.
back
And I was like,
10 days later.
"Thank you." I know. I was like, "They're ready for you." She's like, "Holy shit!" And I was like, "I love you. Please don't buy me one of those for quite some time. My arm
Mhm.
hurts, and I'm just my liver can't take it to sit like just for
Literally,
hours. I wasn't doing anything like emotionally destructive to
you were
myself.
mindlessly
Just
crafting, which is easy to do with
yeah,
diamond dots.
yeah,
And it's easy to mindlessly grab another glass of wine because that's all you're doing, right?
yeah,
All you're doing is crafting.
yeah.
Might as well have another glass of wine. You're not doing anything crazy. Side note about the diamond dots. I am so glad that your diamond dots were so small.
Hmm.
They were just a couple of hours big.
It's about
I
two
have
hours for
diamond
sure.
dots that take me months. And
Okay.
I imagine because you have a specific kind of personality, you would have stayed up and finished what I like, gotten as close as possible. Like
Because
there's no way you left it unfinished.
Rachel, and I'm not talking about toxic productivity because I know how, again, we check in with ourselves of how
Mhm.
to know what is good for you, what's not good for you. But I was like, it can be finished. Like I don't like a half finished project, even though I have ADHD and there's like all these things that I hyperfixate on, but it's like that hyperfixation can be finished in a timely manner. Because I had
Yeah.
the paint gem, like the 10 space ones, which was fantastic. But
Yeah.
maybe we do have like this addictive part of our personality where I'm like, or this compulsive part of our personality where it's like I would compulsively puzzle, put thousand
Yes.
piece puzzles together for artwork, and then I'd buy the 6 puzzles as a set. And then I was like, now I have to do the set, you know? So I had to finish the thing. And I was like, thank you. Please don't buy me another one. But it was just more of like, okay, so I had diamond dotted kind of throughout most of the day. And I said, Rachel, you need to take a shower. You need to take a shower. It's like 10 o'clock.
You remind
Take a
yourself to
shower.
shower.
So I went and took a shower. And then I was like, there's one left. And I know it's going to take 90 minutes to 2 hours, but it was like 11. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this from 11 to 1 a.m. I'm on a bit of a night owl. So
You
then I
are.
was like, it was literally like, it is finished. And I wasn't going to text my friend to say it's done at 1 a.m. Like, let's can our craziness a little bit.
Right.
But the next day I was like, it's ready for you to frame.
And you finished those like in the span of like 48 hours, I feel like, at a minimum.
Um, I would say I did
The
that
most.
the set of 10 within a week.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you probably finished
I
mine
wasn't
like
even
in
like
3 days.
enjoying myself at the end. I just had to finish,
Oh wow.
you know? I was like,
Yeah, it's
it's
because
right
you
there.
didn't have the kind that actually gives you that feedback sound, which I haven't showed you yet.
It does not get, well, the ones I did only when they were very like towards the end, they would click, but those little gems don't click in.
Mine do.
Anyhow, I
Yeah,
know,
sorry.
we are
Tangent.
going, maybe it just goes into like
No,
the
but
feedback
it
loop
does
of what
lean
we're
in. I
doing.
was actually gonna say, I know I have an addictive personality. I
Mhm.
know I do. So because I'm hyper aware of it and because of the alcoholism running in my family, I am very afraid of it becoming a huge problem, the way it's become a problem for my father, because I don't have the career that my dad does. So like he can just do he honestly he can do whatever the hell he wants at this point because he's retired. But the
Yeah.
career he had as a sailor, they're all drunk anyways.
Yeah.
You know, like that it didn't matter. He's a drunk on the beach in Thailand with a camelback and a straw and he's got a whole box of wine bladder on his back. I don't want to get there because I'm not living in the luxury A that he is. And B, you know what? Nobody likes you, Dell. Except for your drink.
Like you tell. That's the thing. I want to choose the alcohol. I don't want the alcohol to choose me.
Yeah, I don't want the alcohol to make me
Hmm.
change my schedule so that I can have it. I
Yeah.
don't want to make room for it. If it is there, I want to have a good relationship with it. And I feel like us really being aware and cognizant of this big change that we want to make, and
Mhm.
we're doing it together,
Yeah.
I think is going to make us so much more successful.
I really think
So
so too. And again, like there's nothing like alcohol or drinking is a neutral choice.
yeah.
You know, like these choices are neutral. There's nothing wrong with, and everyone is telling me like I would rather drink than smoke. Like would prefer that sort of libation, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so, but again, it's just different. And so I found things that would work for me. Like, and at night, I love tea and toast and I don't eat it that much, but I would like make toast. And then I would have like this beautiful teacup. Like I went out and like bought some like beautiful like teacup saucer sets. So again, like at night, I would make myself a cup of tea, but I would like go through the ceremony of like boiling the water and doing all the
Right.
things and making it beautiful for myself instead of like, hey, I'm living without alcohol right now or I'm dry for 90 days. I'm like, it doesn't have to be a shitty experience. Like I got to experience new things. I got to like find new paths that work for me, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, this is fun. Like, and I still
Yeah.
love a good cup of nighttime tea. with the saucer, with the spoon. Like if the queen, oh, she's passed, but like if the Queen of England ever shows up, like I am ready. Also with the
Mhm.
teacups, with like everything was just kind of fancy and like fun still. I made
Yeah.
new
I
things to
think,
find this way. I wasn't going without. I got a chance to experience new things. That's how I like
yeah.
framed it in my mind.
And I think it's super important to like fill that space, especially if you're a board drinker, which I
Yeah.
can be,
Mm-hmm.
and you just said you were. It's
Mindless.
super important to fill that space with something new that's a little bit um I don't know, like not new, but like, well, yeah, new. Something
New,
new that's triggering.
interesting, almost something that like fills the space. Like I filled the space with fancy tea drinking,
Yeah,
like, I didn't
something
mind.
like that.
But here's the thing, when I was like, I would mindlessly pour myself a glass of wine, but I was like, I would purposefully and actively be like, I am here making myself a cup of tea.
Hmm.
I am purposefully making this toast. I am purposefully making these choices.
Hmm. Yeah.
There was
I
nothing
just know it's for me.
mindless about those 90 days. And that
Yeah.
was really a great experience as well. To just check into
Yeah.
myself to be like, how am I actually feeling? Or, oh, this feels icky. I normally I would go have a glass of wine. Well, I can't go do that. So let's sit in the ickiness.
Hmm.
And I truly did come out of that 90 days like in a different emotional space, in a better
Yeah.
emotional space, truly.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
just know, like, for me, all of these changes, and the big one being alcohol right now, since we're talking about it, is just going to be discipline. It's going to be discipline. It's going to be reminding myself what I want. It's going to be reminding myself, like, I can do other things besides have a drink at night.
Mhm.
I tend to not drink because I'm bored, but drink because, like, it's after work and I need to get sleepy. Otherwise, I'll stay up till midnight.
Yeah.
So, like, instead, I bought a book. I'm gonna read it.
Mm.
I'm
Read
not
makes
great.
you
I
sleepy.
used to be a huge reader,
Mhm.
and I found in the last couple of years I am not one anymore.
Mhm.
So I bought myself a book and I'm gonna read instead. You know, I have other things that can fill my time. I don't know why I grab a drink to do these things.
Yeah, and
Or
I was very much a homebody when I was at that point in my life, but I was like, oh, how many pages do I actually need to reread because I don't remember.
that part, reread
And then it's like
because
I'm
you
wasting
don't
still
remember.
so much time.
Yes. Or I'll drink and while I'm reading, I'm thinking about something else. Do
Yeah.
you do that? Like
I
your mind
I I
wanders?
I play like music in the back when I read to like calm that second voice from the ADHD. So
Oh,
it's
that's a
like
good trick.
there is music and a book.
Okay.
So I
That's
don't
that's a pretty good
go
trick.
do that. Yeah.
All I know is, like, I feel like this is going to take discipline for me
Hmm.
because this isn't just January for me.
Hmm.
This is this year
Yeah.
for me.
Hmm.
And it's gonna take the kind of discipline that it took for me to go to the gym every day. And like at first, it was really, really hard and I hated it. Don't get me wrong. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I still fucking hate it. But now it's a habit.
How do you feel?
I feel great. I feel great and I look great. I'm just getting finer. So the biggest part, yeah, the
Mm.
biggest part about this, like drinking much less, is that it's going to support that habit.
Yeah.
It's going to support those big changes that I want to make in my body. And if honestly, like, I hated working out so much that at one point I was like, I'm never fucking doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not lifting up those heavy things. Y'all, I'm not going to do it. Now here I am increasing weights and bitching about it. But like, if I can have the discipline to do that, then I definitely have the discipline to do this. Like, I've already proven to myself, I've got it.
And what I love is like when we prove something to ourselves, like anyone who's on our Patreon supporters, Whiskey Bent Spellbound on Patreon. We do have additional after shows on that as well. But when we talked about my 2024 goals, it's actually really fantastic because again, it's like when we talk about you get a little momentum behind you and then you're like, oh, I've already done that. I can go do this next
Yes.
thing. And the next thing is the next step. So that seems a little scary, but if you think about that second goal, you're like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. But you did the first goal and then you're like, I'm unstoppable. Why couldn't I do that second goal? So everything like builds on one another.
Yes.
Everything bit like it compounds and you get this like momentum behind and you're like, oh, of course I can go do that. Of course I can, go do this, smash this next goal. Or of course I have the motivation and the discipline now to go and do this next thing. That
Yeah.
doesn't seem as scary as the first thing because you know what you're made of now, you know. And I
Yeah.
know that like whether or not I choose to do another uh dry time frame or just I am able to look in my truth mirror and check in with myself and say, "Hey girl." And that gets easier the more you do it.
It really does.
Mhm.
Like every single time you
Mhm.
check in with yourself and you're doing good,
Mhm.
it kind of gives you that a little bit of like push, a momentum to just keep going, keep that focus because you're like, you're doing it.
Yeah,
You're
I got it.
you're putting the energy
Mhm.
out to the universe that you want reflected in the universe when you do that. And the universe sometimes will throw you curveballs to like bring you back in, like dry January.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna if you want to stay dry for January, you can guarantee somebody's gonna invite you out for drinks.
Yeah.
Period. You need to have these tools
Yeah.
to like a wine glass with Sprite in it or a
Mhm.
rocks glass with extra ice and water
Mhm.
so that you can keep on that track so the universe hears you like you are
I
serious.
mean,
That kind of
business.
exactly, I mean business and that kind of translates to so many other things, quite frankly. Like
Yeah.
it's
And when
gonna serve
I
you.
wasn't drinking when I first started school, there were other friends in the class that I made that were completely sober. And so me speaking to be like, hey, I'm just not drinking right now. And then they were like, hey, I got you. Let's go get some Sprites together or whatever. They would just bring me back a Sprite or whatever. Like people are actually very more supportive than you think that they might be. And then when I was like, hey, 90 days are over, let's go and like go have a drink after class, and I was like, sure. I'm like, no, but I'll still be there, because I like how this feels, you know?
Yeah,
So again, like whatever someone feels best for them is how I want people to live. So I was just like, to me, I was like, this is, this is for my best self, you know?
I know that's right. I know that's right. Let me start shuffling these
Shuffling
cards.
these cards because I think I have said all I really have to say on
Well,
that.
while I'm shuffling,
Mhm.
I get messages a lot on my social
You
media.
do, yeah, about the
I do
show.
about our podcast on TikTok, on Instagram. I get messages.
Mhm.
I got a message from a very old dear friend of ours, and it's probably one of my favorite messages because I didn't share a lot of my like craziness
Mhm.
with some of our old friends from Imperial, from
Mhm.
the Valley, from El Centro. And so she's been listening regularly to the podcast. And so this one is from Katie F, is what we'll call her.
Okay.
She, she said, I'm internally screaming at this episode and everything entailed. I hope you continue to document these sexcapades because it could be the entire platform.
It could
And
be.
that
It
was,
could be.
of course, about the sex
The
episode.
sex episode. The sex
She
episode
was,
was the most viral thing we've ever had so far.
hey, listen, there's gonna be more, and if you want more sex episodes, you gotta listen to the episodes on Patreon.
Patreon right now, we have the first inaugural Choni's Chunkless Cheesemay episode.
Mhm.
It's up right now on our Patreon, along with the after sizzle reel of that show as well. So we recorded a show specifically. It is on Patreon. It's $3.95 for a Patreon subscription to Whiskey Bent Spellbound. So not too much, but it does help us create extra bonus content for you guys as well. So if you want to listen, if you love the Whiskey Bent Spellbound podcast, and there is extra content for you guys to consume over there, and we are happy to create it. So thank you for those who are already members. Thank you so much for supporting us. We see you. More amazing things are coming from us, and Patreon's only the first of many great things coming out from Jaki and Rachael, Black and White Fields.
And I mean, really, if you're part of our Patreon too, that's where you're going to hear it first. That's where you're going to see all those big announcements first. Because we're gonna announce our events and all of our, you know, personal appearances, and, you know, we're gonna start doing retreats with us. It's going to be very fun. They're in the works. We have a lot of things to do, a lot of places to go, a lot of people to see. So let's see what the card says.
Big plans. Oh, I can't wait. 3 knocks. Are we ready? Okay.
Okay. We got some spheres again. So the first one, High Priestess, then Wheel of Fortune, and then we got a 6 of Spears, which I think we've pulled before, actually.
So okay, so say it again. I'm taking some notes. So 6 of
High Priestess.
Ooh, I like that.
I know, so do I. That's actually the one I want to get tattooed on me, as the High Priestess.
And then what was the third one?
Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, I'm so excited. So 6 of Spheres, High Priestess, and Wheel of Fortune. I know I probably had the 6 of Spheres last time or recently when we have been talking, because some of my memory like overlaps.
And
I don't think we've ever had the High Priestess or the Wheel of Fortune.
No, but I love when I pull the Wheel of Fortune. It has a lot to do with like success and stuff. And the High Priestess, wow, just wait for it. And I've been reading a lot for us, like when we do our meetings and stuff lately. That's one of my big things that I've decided that I was going to do on a more regular basis, is
spirits guide us. Yes, I know on our current Patreon for my 2024, you're like, the spirits, I'm shuffling, like we got to do it. So we did another card pull for me, which was really fantastic, and I love listening back to that show. It was really fun to, you know, sit with you and your experiences, and I was like, oh, it's my turn. We ran out of time on the show.
Yes, and that's on the Patreon.
Yeah. Rachel,
today's Patreon, you got to tell them what we're going to talk about.
Oh, after the show, please join us on Patreon for the after show sizzle reel. We are going to talk about Jaki's experience in the sugaring community, sugar daddy, sugar baby, sugaring. I'm going to learn something. Yeah, so it's going to
talk about the pros and cons of sugaring, how to get into it, all that good stuff. A little bit of goss.
A little hot goss. A little cheese me.
All right, so let's talk about this first card, the High Priestess. Isn't she so pretty? Is she not so pretty? The High Priestess represents the knowledge and enlightenment that we attain overcoming difficulties.
Knowledge and enlightenment from overcoming difficulties.
Yep. Jeez. It represents wisdom from experience, insight, and counseling. She's a female figure that stands in front of a full moon with half her body exposed and the other half covered. Her face is a swirl of black and white energy. These visuals symbolize her connection to the light and the darkness, to positive and negative energy. And don't we have so much experience as to why we are trying to accomplish this goal?
Yeah.
Don't we have that?
Yeah. This is great. Oh my gosh.
Yep. The second one is the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune represents experiences and circumstances outside of our control. What's inevitable, destiny, and a passage of time. The celestial alignment is coming into place to activate this wheel, a moment of recurring destiny that's part of the cycle of the universe.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a
These
really
are
interesting combination
these are
considering
deep
what
today.
we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And finally, the Six of Spheres, sharing your wealth when it comes to your success. Girlfriend,
That's what I did
that's
today.
that's a really, really good one. The High Priestess is telling us these are good choices
Yeah.
that we're making because we have the experience and the knowledge as to why we need to make these big changes. We have the wisdom, we have the insight. We're counseling you to make whatever big change you know you need to make because you already have the experience as to why. When you make that big change, what is inevitable will happen. Your destiny will happen. So there's a big change that you might need to make. It might not be drinking, like we need, like our, it might not be a habit. It might be something else, but that change, you know that it's going to come with an inevitable success after a certain passage of time.
Mhm.
And then once you've reached that success, you'll be able to share the wealth of your knowledge with your community, which is what we do. We share our experiences and our knowledge and our insight with our community. I
Yeah.
love this for us.
It was so great. I was a little nervous for
Such a good
sharing like a vulnerable portion of my life to be like, is someone going to judge me or are they going to not like it? But I was like, you know what? I'm human and
cool.
you just gotta, and again, I'm here to share it. I'm not here to hide.
One thing I know is that when you are vulnerable with things that you've been through and you show people how vulnerable you are with whatever struggle that you've been through, somebody is going to resonate with it and it's going to change their lives, even if it's just one.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one.
Yeah.
And I really feel like these cards really speak to that, to be honest.
Those were good
Rachel,
cards today. Jackie.
my goodness. I
I
sure
know.
do love this deck. The black, what's it called? The Black Tarot,
Black Tarot.
read by
Mm,
Jackie Black.
love it so much. I love you so much.
I love you so
And
much.
it's officially 2024 and I can't wait for what the year holds.
I really can't. It's going to be such an adventure. There's going to be challenges. But you know what? Here's to the challenges and here's
That's
to
right.
how we overcome them.
And we're ready for it. It's
I
going to be
know I am.
fantastic. Yes. Oh, well, let me have a sip. Mm,
Me too.
mm. I think we should end it there. I don't know how to make it any better.
I don't
So,
either.
Jackie, once again, happiest of birthdays, bestie.
Thank you.
To be 40 wonderful. 40 wonderful. Yes.
40 wonderful.
Yes. So, thank you everyone once again for joining us for another fantastic episode of Whiskey Bent
Spellbound with Black.
and Whitefield. Love you.
Love
Bye.
you. Bye.